Thank you very much for this opportunity. I've never felt a stranger within NCAI, but sometimes we from Alaska, in spite of having one of our most fearless, I was going to say fearsome, leaders, and Jackie Peta here with you, sometimes wondering exactly where we fit. The notion of being American Indian versus Native American, the fact that we in Alaska have Inuit and Inupiaq, Yupik, Supiaq, Anungan, First Peoples of the land who believe strongly in who they are, who have regenerated in powerful ways their place in our universe after a period of oppression that lasted generations, a period in which some of those finely nuanced names with powerful evocation existed only in the literature and in the understanding of Alaskans as Creoles during the days of land claims. These wonderful peoples of many different realities, of many different beliefs and values and sense of who they were, branded as Creoles because the world understands them as being of Russian and Native descent, as opposed to who they really were. And then to see them begin to emerge after generations of not speaking their languages, except in the most private and spiritual of places, and bringing that public. And during a period in which even we as Native leaders involved in pursuing our claims wondered where were our own dances, to see them re-emerge almost full-blown from a place that even some of us did not know existed within our own generations. There's something there. I ran for governor of Alaska because I saw government in our state growing away from our people in subtle but yet powerful ways, where regulations were changed in order to stifle the voice, where programs were cut in which people, where they lived every single day in their villages and in their regions, were too much of a bother to be included in the public discourse in which critical decisions about our economy and our society were being made. A government in which hard-edged ideology was creeping into the public discourse that affected our lives. And it was in Alaska that I didn't know. I grew up in a place where even if we didn't look one another in the eye because that was not how we did it, we could feel and communicate and have a sense of being and a sense of place and a sense of powerful commonality. And that is the Alaska that we must bring to all of Alaska. Because when I spoke those phrases just now of commonality, of knowing who we were, of being able to understand one another without necessarily saying a word, it was about, of course, we as Native peoples. I had the opportunity just in this last week to be in Barrow, now Utqiagvik. We're bringing back our native names. Where the Presbyterian Church of the United States apologized to the people of that region as they had apologized at the Alaska Federation of Natives Convention last fall for the generations of mistreatment and misunderstanding and efforts to take away from who we were, what we were, and replace it with something else. And I was profoundly moved in a gymnasium packed with some 3,000, principally Inuit people, when the clerk or the head person of the National Presbyterian Church stood up to speak. And he was African American. And he could speak as only an African American can speak. And he had people aroused. He had people cheering. He had people standing on their feet, believing not in what he was preaching as a denominational faith. He had them standing, recognizing who they were as Native peoples. A powerful difference, a powerful difference. And I felt it. And the next day I was in Anchorage at the University of Alaska at a retrospective symposium of the ANCSA days, which were almost 50 years ago now. I was very young. And what I had heard and listened and seen the night before in Utqiagvik was just roaring in my head. And it seemed to distill, for me at least, something that I had been unable to articulate, but was feeling for a very long time. And we were asked the question, some of you know Willie Hensley, Willie and I, where are we? Where do we need to go? How do we know who we are? How do we know how to divine a future that is built around who we are and what we seek and what our aspirations are and what we seek for our children? And I'm speaking very personally here. I said it has to be in our spirituality. It has to be in our spirituality. I've been a corporate CEO, I've been on corporate boards, I've done much in my life that had to do with business than I have in any other place. But at my core, I know who I am, but I often fail in my own judgment as to how to express it and how to live it. And as we know the world in which we live, we, our children, our grandchildren, face an uncertain future because of what we are doing to ourselves. seeking something in our lives that otherwise we do not have, through drugs and alcohol and those things that tend to destroy us personally as we seek to find who we are. And I just want, and I know that time is limited, I love Brian, and I'm probably not going to be able to give him a minute back of the time that's already been used this morning, but I'll try not to add too much to it. But I want to say this. We can come to Washington, D.C., we can come to our state capitals, we can go to corporate America, and we can talk business until the cows come home. And we must. And we must. And we can speak to the need for education. We can speak to the need for health. We can speak to all of those things that this, the greatest nation on earth, we should never have to debate about. But yet we do and fight for every single day. But more than that, somehow, we must come to every one of these places as Native peoples, as Indian peoples, as First Peoples of the land, as Inuit, as Yupik, as Supik, as Anangan, as Tlingit, as Haida, as Cherokee, as Navajo, as Nez Perce. We must come with a powerful and undeniable belief that permeates every room that we are in, that we are first Native peoples who come never as supplicants but as sovereigns. And that we do that not based upon what we ask for, but based upon who we are. That there is a recognition that deep within these peoples is a belief, a value, a spirituality that says to every single person that we come in contact with, they will be here forever. They will never leave. This is their land. They share it with us. But it is they who will be here forever. That sense of spirituality is also essential for our relationships with our own children. We talk about so much the trauma, the difficulties that we deal with every day, but I see in the face of my grandchildren hope and a belief that they will be Native, no matter what their color may be. They may have blue eyes, their mother or father may be blonde and European or some other race. But because of the strength of their antecedents, because of the strength in their connections to their land, they will always know who they are. And they are, yes, in spite of the difficulties we have with the state educational system and with everything else, they are relearning their languages. My grandchildren can speak again. So there is an incredible sense of hope, and we must never be without that. And in times such as we live in now, the most powerful thing, I believe, that we can show to anyone in any place, in any circumstance, for whatever we appear 4 is to somehow begin or strengthen or share with others whom we need to within our own world that powerful spirituality, and I have no other word for it, that makes us who we are. It is only that will see us through. Thank you so much for this opportunity.